But while Bo was gone, he was never forgotten. His parents thought about him and prayed for him every single day. He wasn't forgotten by his community in Idaho or the military, which rallied to support the Bergdahls through thick and thin. And he wasn't forgotten by his country, because the United States of America does not ever leave our men and women in uniform behind.
So he comes home. He doesn't, by the way, see his parents. I don't know if he ever has. He didn't see him for months. The town in Idaho didn't want to give him any kind of welcoming. The military has now charged him with desertion. It worked out real well. Joining us now is Tom Bevan. He's co-founder of RealClearPolitics.com. He's written a great piece, Obama's Bergdahl Fairytale Has an Unhappy Ending. Tom, welcome. I asked this about so many things this man does. How could he have been so wrong, or did he know all this while he was standing in the Rose Garden?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it seemed like it was a sort of a hastily put together press conference. And interestingly, people wondered, because he said that day, President Obama said, well, I just gave them a call. Well, it turns out they just happened to be in Washington, D.C. that Saturday morning. So I think it was actually a little bit more premeditated than that. It was in the works for a while. And so you do have to wonder how much the administration knew. Clearly, this information was out there. It began, members of his platoon began challenging his account, President Obama's account, even that afternoon. And by Sunday morning, by the time Susan Rice was on the Sunday shows saying that he had served with honor and distinction, it was clear already that members of his platoon were saying that is not what happened.
It's just, it's part of a pattern here, but you're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought up Susan Rice. The fact of the matter is that everybody knew this. It was just a couple of days after that the New York Times started printing, correspondence between his father and him, and how his father said, follow your conscience, when he said he wanted to leave. And I mean, there was no question. But, there are two schools of thought here. One is that he used this as an excuse to just get rid of those 5, help clean out Gitmo. But he violated even there. He didn't go to Congress like he had to do, and they say it's because he was so ill they couldn't wait 30 days, which doesn't seem to be the case. Or the other scenario is he just doesn't give a darn. And as Ralph Peters said, he can understand people who desert. He just can't understand why anybody would join the military.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on this, I think it's clear that it was the former. I mean, I think the president, he's wanted to close Guantanamo since the day he took office. He hasn't been able to do that. This was an example, and this was also timed with the drawdown of troops in Afghanistan, which was another big one of his sort of timelines that he had set out there after he put the surge in Afghanistan into place. So this was all sort of timed to support both of those items, but particularly the Gitmo thing. It was an opportunity to clear out some of Gitmo and frame it in a way that this was a great homecoming, and that we, as the president said, we don't leave our troops behind. So it's set up for a nice story, but the facts kind of intervened. And the unfortunate part of this whole thing, Steve, is that as I wrote in my piece, this fairy tale has an unhappy ending for everybody except for the 5 the Taliban 5, who in just a few weeks now are going to be basically the strict monitoring that Qatar was supposedly put on them will be lifted, and they'll be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when the State Department spokesperson, I think it was Psaki, was told by Megyn Kelly, hey, we already have evidence that at least 3 of them have communicated with terrorists. Well, that just shows that our monitoring program is working. Right. I mean, they could spin anything. And again, any other president would have egg on his face, would be embarrassed, would say, oh my God, how am I going to explain my way out of this one? I just don't think he cares.
Look, the president hasn't been really asked that question. I mean, you mentioned, I think Jen Psaki was on Megyn Kelly's show and said, we absolutely did the right thing, and they would do it again. They're standing by the decision, despite the fact that we now know that, Bo Bergdahl is going to be charged with desertion and misbehaving with the enemy. And so we'll see. I mean, this guy could very well end up spending a good chunk of years behind bars, and
Tom, let me interrupt. We got 30 seconds. Do you think the fix is in? Do you think the president will pick up the phone, or someone will, and talk to the general who will make the decision on a trial or a deal?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I hope not.
I think the military justice system is going to to work its will here, and we'll see what happens.
Good. And I hope you're right. Great piece, folks. Obama's Bergdahl fairy tale has unhappy ending. Go to realclearpolitics.com, as I do every single day, early and often. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
All right, Steve. Thank you.
All right, coming up, folks, more of the Steve Malzberg Show. It's coming up right here on Newsmax Television. Don't go away.